as time flies by, you'll open up your eyes wide. You feel it's gonna go your way. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. Hey, 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 it's a brand.
Welcome back to Marbella Now. My name is Nicole King, and what a pleasure to welcome back to the program Jasper, who is Danish, and he's very proud of being Danish. He's actually also the head of the Costa Press Club. But right now, before we start, I want to talk about you, your heritage, because when we met last time at the Kempinski at Christmas,
Yes.
It was so nice, Jasper. You brought with you the Danish stockings and talked about Danish Christmas, and it was lovely to see how, even though your heart is in the Costa del Sol,
Yes.
you very much want to make sure that those traditions live on.
Thanks for inviting me. I think what is happening is that we become more nationalist when we move abroad. We are living in our home country and we just say, well, that's where I am. When we move abroad, suddenly we become aware that gradually we can promote what we are proud of, we can long for what we have left, and we can preserve and conserve whatever we think is worth conserving. Like I told you at Christmas, my son got his Christmas present the 24th and not the 5th of January. My wife, she's Spanish, because I wanted to preserve the fact that in Denmark we give it the 24th, in England it's 25th, and here in Spain it's the 5th of January.
Yeah, with our family, we kind of give them one on the 24th,
Yes.
most of them on the 25th, and save a couple for the 5th.
And
It's like-
that's how we can gradually conserve and say preserve and say, hey, I am still Danish. I am formerly a Danish citizen. I've been living here almost 35 years. And occasionally I am very proud of being Danish, and when we lose a football match against Spain, I don't know where to put myself to be in favor of.
Bittersweet, because you're happy that Spain wins, but you want Denmark to win.
Yeah, it's not possible. But anyway, it's a way of thinking and receiving and observing ourselves. We think about our pride in the right sense.
When you came here, was it on holiday and then you met your wife and fell in love? And
Long time ago, I met my wife. I was here for 3 days, and then I went back to Denmark, and we started writing. We have a pile of letters we still have in mind to read occasionally and laugh a bit about it. And then I started coming back and forth and started studying journalism. I left the study, and then I moved down here in the 21st of December, 87.
wow,
It's a long time.
it is a long time.
I've been enjoying it. I still miss things from my home country, but you learn to live with that, and you get compensation from another part, which has now become a lot of Danish tour clients. I am working as a tourist guide. They ask me, when do you go home? And I say every day, because home for me is where I live currently in Torremolinos. They relate it to Denmark when you go back home. And yes, I am going there quite a lot, but it's not that home anymore.
What are the things that you would miss? I know as a Brit, the only things I missed back in the early 80s was English food. And I would see a tin of baked beans or spaghetti I'd never eat normally, but I bought it. They had a Finder something in the sense, but now we can get everything here, even for food. Is that the same with the Danish?
Yeah, but you can buy almost everything on the coast in different types of shops. I don't miss that much the gastronomy. I miss the changing of the seasons, which happens to a lot of people, because here it's so, now it's summer, and then from almost one day to another, it becomes autumn and then winter and then spring. I enjoy and I miss this gradual signs, okay, the leaves are getting more brown. Now we're heading towards autumn. Here it's so very fast, it happens. And then I miss, obviously, friendship and family, and I miss some tools that here would be very useful, but it is something that is ready. In Denmark, I can calculate my public transport with an app. Here I have to wait for the bus to arrive. The trains are a lot better, but still there are some issues that is working there, and gradually it could work better here. And there are things in Denmark that doesn't work at all, and the other way around. So it's not just destructive criticism. There are issues that can always be improved.
Without a doubt. And it's nice that we can learn from each other. Having a Spanish wife and having been here for 30 years, you have a privileged insight to Spanish Costa del Sol.
Yes.
And I imagine it's out of that privileged experience and knowledge that this idea to give tour guides to some of the places that tourists would otherwise never even know about.
Yeah.
I imagine that's why you've...
I mean, obviously with the COVID-19, there's not too much work, but I've been organizing and will be organizing trips together with the Danish Association, and my prime aim is to show, let's call it the unknown sites, places of each town we're going to visit it. I'm planning to go to Estepona. Very few people know that one of the biggest disputes about one of the biggest assets in heritage took place in Estepona. It started '88, and there is a square in Estepona named after the woman who was the key of the issue. And I will be explaining about that when we're on the square. And there are other places in Estepona and other places on the coast where you find out, if you do a bit of investigation, that there is another story of what we can see while we're there.
It's so nice because there is so much history to the coast. If you think how many different cultures have cohabited, and then it's just really quite rich in history. Is that something that you like, that you enjoy, the traditions also of Spain and the history?
Yeah, and I mean, I think we have a lot of places along the coast where we have been demonstrating that living different nationalities within the same community is actually possible. I'm not referring to any specific area, but there are, like Miercoles, I think there are 120 or 130 different nationalities, and they are living, let's say, in peace. And how many you will find housing meetings where they are having their arguments about the maintenance cost, whatever. But generally, it is an admirable example of coexistence between different nationalities, different age groups, different religions. And that is, I'm proud of showing and explaining that to Danes who are coming down as a tourist, or Danes who are living here. But they, the last ones, they know that part of that. So I'm looking for less more specific, curious information. Very few people knows, because I will be going to Torremolinos where I'm living myself. Very few people knows and aware, because there's no today evidence, where we are having our sports facilities in 38 was literally a concentration camp, and there were people who died there because there were no barracks. The Civil War was a rough reality, and if I can show some graphic evidence to demonstrate, hey, this was what it looked like in 38. It was there for only 4 months, but a certain amount of people literally died since there were no barracks. That's part of our history. When I do that, I will be explaining about the legacy of the Civil War as well. The Civil War, the monument of Franco has last year and this year has been a very warm potato. And you can always, when you have people who are keen to listen, you can always add a tiny bit. And that's what I feel proud of doing. And if people enjoy it, even better. It's
such a rich history, and it's in such a short amount of time. If I think also when I first started coming in the early 60s, to how Spain was then, how quickly it's changed and developed, to all the things that have gone on, as you say, the Civil War and the dictatorships, to us then now having, like in Marbella, 147 nationalities on the town register and all here together.
Yeah, but that's, if you can remind people of that, things have changed. And rapidly in some aspects, in other places, in other areas, there's still need of changing and improvement. But if you can remind people, because you can tell your own experience. I've been driving on a 2-lane road with no division in the middle when I drove to Marbella. And people don't believe it. And when you say, yeah, it's a fact. And it was at that time.
I remember it.
Yes, and it was actually in the British press. This stretch between Marbella and Miercoles was known as the Death Road because a lot of British people used to driving in the opposite side of the road.
And also turning left in
Yes.
the road, and it was just so many
And suddenly
horrors.
we have this famous mayor of Marbella, Jasper, and he, for good and worse, he improved a lot and he changed a lot. And people should be aware that this changing doesn't come from one day to another. It takes time, it takes development, it takes a change of mentality. When you came here, did people wear a helmet when they were driving on motorcycles?
No.
No. It took a generation. A lot of raw campaign on television because we have to tell them, yes, it's a disturbance to drive with a protection helmet in summertime because it's bloody hot, but you can actually get killed if you don't do it. But that has taken a generation to change that, and that the police and the traffic authorities are dealing very strict to those who don't do it. But it takes time, and that is part of the legacy and the story about Costa del Sol.
I think also now with the European Communion, it makes a community, it makes it obviously that all the participating countries need to follow the same legislation. So it's nice to see that in the catch-up, things are getting handled that perhaps, as you say, I mean, there's a lot to be undertaken to update things.
I think, one of the curious and a bit absurd situation is that if I have a Spanish driver's license, I commit a traffic fine in Spain, then I have to pay the fine and they would take a certain amount of points in my driver's license. If I do the same in Denmark, they will only ask me to pay the fine because the European Union countries don't have the same point system. So the same offense in traffic is dealt with from the authorities differently. Please don't drive too fast and respect the traffic rules. But it's somewhere a situation where the European Union on a longer scale maybe should sit down and think, okay, we are 27 countries now, and we should actually have the same legislation and the same rules. That isn't easy it's not a piece of cake. It takes time.
It's a lot of coordination.
It takes a lot of coordination, but gradually if that might be one of the issues to improve.
Without a doubt. I think we're going to have to get you on it. Anyway, we're going to come back in a moment and carry on chatting with Jasper after these messages. Don't go away.
When I'm the designated driver, I think it's only fair that I get to choose a zero-hero venue that rewards me with free soft drinks. My friends all get to choose and booze, and they feel safe going home with me. Make sure that you get your reward for being the designated driver. Why pay if you don't have to?
Judy likes to consider herself a clever young woman, which is why she thought very carefully before choosing her insurance company. Now that she needs it, she's jolly glad she chose Linear Director, as it looks as if she might have something better to do. Why don't you be clever, like Judy? Call Linear Director on 952 14 78 34 and see which policy is best for you.
Zero Hero, welcome to the playwright.
Hello guys, welcome to Harbor. All the designated drivers are welcome here to the Harbor. And we are very proud to be a Zero Hero partner.
G-Wine is happy to be Zero Hero partner.
Hi guys, Ross here from Hogan Stand. Proud to be a member of the Zero Hero campaign. And we recommend everybody. Nobody drives drinking. Everybody who drives a car doesn't have any alcohol in their system, and we're proud to sponsor the Zero Hero program.
Out of bounds, Zero Hero Partners.
Here we are, sticker going on. Delighted to welcome everybody and to be part of the Zero Hero campaign. Delighted.
Hey, hey.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Nicole King and I'm chatting with Jasper. And I don't say his surnames because it's very Danish and I always get them mixed up. Sender Petersen.
Sander Petersen.
I
That's
got
right.
it. I
You got it right.
Jasper Sender Petersen. A lot of vowels in there. It's like get it all mixed up. Jasper is Danish. You've been living on the coast for 30 years. You do tour guides to let people know the best historic, emblematic stories of living on the coast and things that we don't even know we're sitting next to. But you mentioned before you were studying journalism in Denmark. You came to Marbella for 3 days. You met your now wife. After love letters backwards and forwards, you came to the coast. I know you're the president of the Costa Press Club, so obviously you carried on in journalism. But how did you get it together from Danish, Spanish?
Well, I mean, obviously I needed to earn some money and I had the fortune of getting employed at the first stage with a fortnightly newspaper that doesn't exist anymore. And then after that, working 15 years, writing for a Danish magazine that is still on the street, Solkisten. And I was... My basic problem at that time, I didn't speak too well Spanish. So my basic information was through in English and other foreign publications. And then after a year and a half, then I told myself, and my wife, she told me, you have to learn Spanish if you want to live here forever. So I did.
Particularly then.
Yes.
Because back in those days, I mean, really, there weren't that many people who spoke English.
Yeah, and
all the shops, everything was local and Spanish.
Yeah, and obviously my sources, when I started learning Spanish, I could read a Spanish newspaper, I could watch Spanish television, then suddenly the angle of stories suddenly became a lot bigger, and the possibility of writing about everything, local politics, personalities, social issues, editorials, whatever. And then in 2000, 2001, some of my colleagues from other media, we were actually invited for the foreign department of Miercoles for a thank you lunch event in Octubre, I think. And then we said, well, it's the only time of the year we actually get together. So why don't we consider the option of creating something? And that ended up with the Costa Press Club. We've started officially in 2004 and we are still here. Though these days we don't have too much activities because of the COVID-19, but we are still existing. We get occasionally new members and we are planning within the very strict limitations to do our Christmas party is going to be not physically present. We are aiming to do a Zoom meeting and I am actually preparing a Christmas quiz.
I was going to say, what would Christmas be without
I will not tell you the
Christmas
topic.
quiz?
I will not tell you the answer.
You have to give us the topic.
I won't. That would be cheating. It's just to maintain the contact between our members. And when things are getting more easy, hopefully next year, then we will go back with our meetings with physical presence and guest speakers. But at the time being, we had a committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we decided better not to plan something that we have to cancel at the final moment because of the situation, restrictions, lack of attendance. So it's better to say, okay, we are still here, but we have to adapt to a raw reality, which is COVID-19.
Yeah, it's obviously changing many things. I'm very happy to have been to last Christmas's event. I like being part of the Costa Press Club because we don't always get an opportunity to actually chat with fellow journalists, because either covering a story or you're covering an event, and then to actually have time to chat is very nice.
Yeah, and you meet different people working within different areas of media. Some are specialized in history, others specialized in tourism, whatever. And you have this exchange of opinions. Occasionally you need some information, then you know a couple of reliable sources, or they can recommend you if you want something specifically in real estate, then speak with those companies. And that's what we're aiming for. We are not aiming to become a huge press club, but we're still here, and we try to get some interesting guest speakers and find some topics that are relevant for communicators living on the coast.
When we chatted last time, we brought up about the misrepresentation of the facts by the press and how misleading it can be and how important it is for everybody to do their due diligence from their sources, follow up, comparing.
Yeah. During
COVID, I think I was blown away at how many false news came out and how believable they were. I mean, even journalists could be taken in because it was so confusing. What were your thoughts on the situation?
I think fake news has become an enemy, and we have to be very much aware when we draw our conclusion upon any information that we receive. I will not mention the name. One of the big Spanish local newspapers today has a very big story about the mistreatment of elderly people in a caretaker home in Malaga. And they present it like it happened yesterday. But if you take a look on the photo that is on the front page, it says 2018, which means that we can receive this information. What a scandal, and it is. It's a shame that this has happened, but it happened in 2018, not yesterday. What has happened is the information about this case has become public, and 4 or 5 of the people who are suspicious in this case, they are going to court, and the court will be celebrated these days. But we have to be aware that some of the fake news are done deliberately, because then our attention might be diverted, or we believe something that actually turns out to be totally phony, fake, and invented by those who might be interested, that a general public respond one way or another.
It's nice in a way with the new technology that everyone can get information out there, but it's worrying how certain search engines and different instruments, let's say, that are working in the World Wide Web direct us to things we're expecting. For example, I don't think a lot of people realize that Gmail, whether you've sent it or you've just drafted an email, is public domain and is stored like everything else. And it's funny when you get feedback from people saying that they thought about resigning, and the next day, without even sending the email, they're getting information and promotions of job offers.
Yes, because we are under a lot more surveillance than what we actually think. And that surveillance in some cases is very necessary. In other cases it's terrifying, because we think we have our private space, and we do have, but it has been mixed with surveillance of different types. Surveillance from the authorities, surveillance from commercial interest groups. You go to a website searching for some information, and the next month they will put on our Facebook, they will put commercial ads, banners for something that you were searching information about for a specific moment, but it doesn't make you to a key client. But some users, some agencies, some companies are doing that. They say, well, if I was searching for an old car model 2 weeks ago, now I have a huge offer of restored classic cars from Germany. I'm just laughing, but it gives an idea that the surveillance is for good. It's there because we can catch a lot of evil elements in our society, and for worse, that our privacy is not as private as we may think it should be, or could be, or would be nicer if it were.
Yeah, I think ignorance, unfortunately, does not serve us well when it comes to the World Wide Web. There's a lot of things that we need to be more aware about, and our privacy. Last question. As a journalist, you've seen the Brexit, you've seen the COVID. In general, when you look at our international community, what advice would you offer? As I say, as a tourist guide, as someone who's lived here their whole life and you're seeing what's going on, how would you reassure people, or not,
I think that the basic thing is respect the restrictions that are valid in any moment wherever we are. A mask, social distance, and waiting for the right moment. People are not traveling to the coast right now because they think that they will automatically get ill by traveling here. And that is partially untrue. But I can fully understand people are saying, well, I prefer to stay at home for the time being. Whenever we have an improvement of the situation, then the coast is still a very, very nice place for a summer vacation, a winter vacation, and I will be happy to show the same people on another occasion when things have changed. But for the time being, better be cautious.
Yes, it's better to be, obviously, keep ourselves safe, but at the same time, it is important that we do go out. We do go to the different restaurants, bars and venues because, as Spectrum says, if we don't use them, we'll lose them.
Yeah.
And I think as much as possible, it's good for us to support as many incentives as we can locally, going to explore our local cities and get behind-the-scenes information. Sounds like a lot of us residents might like that too.
Yeah, and supporting the local small businesses is always improvement because then you have the personal contact. People living here, go out and enjoy the meal. Go out and if you have the opportunity to see a theater, a play, then you have to accept that we are sitting on a different way in the theater, in the cinema, but we can still enjoy the movie, the theater play, the concert, there's a lot less of those for the time being. But in order to change that, we have to be aware that attendance is fundamental.
Without a doubt, we have to show up. Otherwise, it can't go on. It's really nice chatting with you. Just a quick question. How many Danes live here on the coast?
Roughly 5,000.
5,000?
5,000 officially. The amount is a lot higher if we take those who are having a vacation apartment, but they're not registered in the town hall. But 5,000, and in summertime, maybe half, because they do prefer to go back where they are living, where they came from, to avoid the heat.
August can be quite hot. July and August can be quite hot.
So, but that's the official amount, and hopefully more.
Well, lovely to chat with you. It's nice to see that you don't have to run away, but as a journalist, you're used to handling those hot potatoes.
Yes.
As you said so.
Well, I still can miss the opportunity to make a comment. But I have my social media. Facebook is a useful tool as well.
Wonderful.
But working as a tourist guide is my new...
Your new passion.
My new passion.
Like semi-retired. I'm going to just live the good life and show people that. I think it's really nice seeing the sights. Jasper, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And thank you so much for joining us again for another Marbella Now. Take care of yourselves. We'll be back tomorrow with more.
We can change if we try. Just believe.